I am content creator Joie Garrity. I'm the founder of Superstar Women Entrepreneurs Media Network and Joie G113. I'm dedicated to empowering women entrepreneurs to create a beautiful personal and professional lifestyle by spotlighting superstar tools, tips, and resources that gain them ease and grace. Every episode, myself, along with a featured guest, share our Superstar Women Entrepreneurs journey on my globally recognized show, Superstar Women Entrepreneurs Spotlight with Joie. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Superstar Women Entrepreneurs with Joie. I'm content creator Joie Garrity. You can learn more about me at Joie G113. You can also learn about my brand and why I named my company Joie G113, about my products, my services, and my books and more. I have an incredible guest today. We were introduced through a mutual friend of ours from our background. And I want to talk about how to give women in the IT sector and beyond the assistance they need to thrive with CMO Lynn Fernando. It is super cool what she's doing, everyone. She is part of a co-founder who has launched Tech Girl. We're going to talk more about that and how they're mentoring and they're breaking through in this arena so that women have an equal playing field. Now, I had to have her on my show when I heard about that, right? Absolutely. I wanted a little bit more about Lynn. Lynn Fernando is a marketing leader, advisor, and founder with over 2 decades of experience. She's worked for a number of blue chip companies, including Disney, Amazon, and Nestle. And she's done a ton of startups too. So I'm going to bring her up from the green room so we can jump right in. Here she comes. Hi, Lynn. Hey, Lynn, how are you?
I'm so great, so honored and privileged to be on this show with you.
Oh, you're so sweet. So thank you for taking time out. I know you're super busy, right? I so appreciate the advice that you're going to give to women out there on today's show because it is all about, right, really like breaking through these sectors, right, in the IT world and beyond, and how we can thrive as women out there. Can you share a little bit about Tech Girl and your passion behind this?
Absolutely. So I've always been just fascinated, very curious, always been, just into technology ever since I was a young girl. And, I fell into the corporate world very early on in my career. I worked in advertising. I worked at big blue chip companies like Disney and Amazon, and I was very fortunate to have such a amazing career. But I also had a lot of great ideas. I was always an entrepreneur at heart. I always had like ideas around an app or a product that would help solve like various problems. But as a woman, especially in tech, you know the challenges, you know the struggles. It's not easy. And so, over the last several years, I've been very fortunate to surround myself with women who either have been really successful in the startup and tech space and shared the same mission and vision as I did. And had I had a platform like Tech Girl, and I'll tell you a little bit about it soon, I think my career and my life would have taken a different direction, maybe a different trajectory. Not that I'm grateful or ungrateful for my career path, but what we are creating is a movement, honestly. Today, only 1.96% of women founders in tech actually get funded, which means there's 98% of women who are probably pitching ideas or probably like out there with amazing opportunities and concepts, but are never really getting out of that concept phase or not getting enough capital and resources. So that's one fun fact. But there's the mentorship and there's that network and that access to resources that, like I said, had I had that early on in my career, I don't know, like maybe I would not have chosen a corporate path. I would have probably launched a few different companies or been in a situation to have had the right leadership or guidance So, what we are creating is a movement. It is a platform meant to empower aspiring first time female founders, specifically in tech, to accelerate their startup journey, whether it's through mentorship, access to capital, and a variety of other resources, whether it's workshops, virtual series, and then grants and scholarships. So, we are launching our foundation this month, actually, which will really get get money for these first time female founders.
I
So
think it's fantastic, and I think that's such a roll out the red carpet share there. It's so true. Mentorship, it could have changed and impacted us in so many different ways when we were younger,
oh,
right,
absolutely.
as women, right? And it just wasn't there necessarily. It just wasn't. As a matter of fact, I remember on a whole, there was usually just one other woman or no other women in the room with me.
Yeah.
And how intimidating is that? I was young, right?
Mhm.
And we have a different way that we communicate,
Mhm.
right? And so just gosh, to have that other woman in the room, what a difference that would have made.
Oh,
What
yeah.
a difference.
Yeah. No, when I was, coming up in the world in advertising and marketing, even advertising and marketing, there were male leaders. They were the CMOs. They were the ones at the top. And so I think even just empowering women, if you see them, you can be them, right?
Yes.
I would love for there to be stronger networks and stronger programs out there, whether you are in the startup space or at the big, blue chip companies, where you could see at the highest level
Yeah.
women leaders. And so I think that that's a huge opportunity, specifically in startups, right? Because the consumers of today, the people who are making those decisions are women. They're the ones that are buying the apps,
Yes.
downloading technology, buying technology for their households. And so we have such tremendous buying power.
Yeah.
And if we can just get more capital, more mentorship, more leadership in this space, I feel like we'll be just that much more innovative of a economy, and obviously much more innovative as a society.
I agree. Leveraging that would be fantastic, right? How would that help mold a legacy of the girls that are coming up,
Yeah.
right? And when I hear people out there, sometimes they'll say, there is something about I call it the Quentin Tarantino myth, where when Quentin Tarantino, because he worked in a video store, all of a sudden, like, everyone that worked in video stores, like,
Paused. Yeah.
art of Hollywood, right? Right? All these young boys, and we're like, "But hold on a second. Quentin actually comes from a lot of influence, right? He already came from a Hollywood background, right?"
Mhm.
And so there's that kind of that myth of like, "Oh, just pull yourself up from your bootstraps and you can do it." And I was just like, "No, everyone needs that a hand that helps pull them
Right.
up."
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, again, I was very fortunate in my career having been in some of the digital business units of Disney. So I got my first like lick of just innovation and technology like very early in my career. Right after like the dot-com boom, I went and lived in the Bay Area, and I worked on several different accounts, basically, that were tech accounts. And I was like, this is the fast pace, like innovation that I wanted to be in. And so when I worked at Disney, and we know, we talked about this, it was like we were in the division that was like just fast moving, creating, pivoting, and that was exciting. And so I've always liked that kind of culture. I've always liked just like how things were rapidly changing. And even now, I'm aging myself, but like cut to like all of social media platforms. Like when I joined Disney, like none of that was existing. Like I remember having a conversation of like, should we have a Mickey Mouse social media platform or social media account? So like absolutely, like it's a totally different world. Or the conversations around like, should we partner with influencers as a company? And like
Right.
obviously, yeah, like you are doing that always as a brand. So I just can't wait to see what the next 5 years brings, right? Like even with AI,
Oh yeah, I'm
and how that's
excited.
changed the marketing, space. Like that hasn't even been a year. Even though AI has been around forever and like machine learning's been around forever, what it's done for marketers or what it's done for like just the industry at large, you're like, oh my gosh, I can only imagine what's going to happen in the next 5 years.
I know, I can't wait. I'm excited. I love AI. I use it all the time. I want to share your share here, the SWE Spotlight. Step into your spotlight share. Find your who, find your village. Can you elaborate
Mm-hmm.
on that? I think that's so important.
Yeah, I mean, this is inspired by a book that I'm reading. Actually, I have here. It's called Who Not How, and it's not a it's a no brainer. And I've always felt this, but you cannot do it alone. You
And
cannot succeed or achieve big goals without a team, without a village. Even personally, I need a village. Like it's hard to be a working parent or even do all the things that I aspire to do. But in the context of obviously professional goals, the formula is very clear. It's like figure out who's going to be your ally, your mentor, who's going to help you achieve some of these goals. And I highly recommend this for anyone who has a lot of goals to achieve and doesn't know where to start, because it has a lot of great anecdotes, whether it's from the sports world. Like the best one where it starts is really about like Michael Jordan and how he couldn't have won all the championships he won on the Bulls without Scottie Pippen and the rest of the team.
so true.
And probably the same goes with like, Kobe Bryant. Like they can be leaders in their own right and they could be fantastic and amazing athletes, and you could be a fantastic entrepreneur or C-suite executive, but you cannot achieve goals without your team, without other people to complement you and obviously help accelerate that success. So it is who I have, definitely spent a lot of time, just thinking about is like who's on my side, who are my partners, who is my village, both, at home and at work.
Yeah, that's such a spotlight share. I love that. Such a hot spotlight share. My share today is about kick the lone wolf to the curb, right? Because you
Mhm.
cannot build a thriving business without a thriving tribe. It's impossible.
Mhm.
I see women out there, I think sometimes we are conditioned to be lone wolves, right? Again, being the only woman in the room sometimes, right? In that kind of situation, it can start playing with your head. But I love your share about like that it won't work. It just won't work that way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in that place where I don't like to ask for help. I think
Sure.
sometimes, oh, I could just do it quicker. I could do it by myself. But why not ask for help when you most need it? Why not show that, like, hey, I could use your opinion, or I could use your advice, or I'd love to get your help, because it just broadens your perspectives. Maybe it just cuts the time that much more quickly.
Yes.
Or who knows, maybe there's a new innovation that comes out of it and something else becomes uncovered. So absolutely.
I have this,
Help.
you don't know what you don't know. Like how
Mhm.
you have to have these aha moments, right?
Right.
Whether, you're reading, this is one of my favorite books right now. It's The Deep End with Shannon Crody. She has a very large women's network. I had her on the show, but and you can get mentorship through books like what you're talking about too. Because of
Mhm.
this book, I had this dream about launching the SWE Media Network, but I read this book in one sitting and I launched the next day. She said something in here and I was just like, okay. Like, she connected a dot for me, right? And I
Yeah.
just love that. I love that. I also love your quote here. We think we can help eliminate the gender gap in the IT sector and build a more varied and innovative future by leveling the playing field. Okay, bravo to that sister. I was like, wow, that's a bold statement. And I'm so glad she said it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been in the boardrooms and in the conference rooms where you're the only woman, and you're like, there's got to be other women who can share and obviously add value in the same way. And as I mentioned earlier, there's so many ideas out there from all walks of life, all different backgrounds. And if we can level the playing field by giving them the platform and the access to mentors or even peers, I feel like we'll be that much more a better society, a better culture, and it'll just open up, our worlds and our eyes to so many new and unique opportunities.
And visionaries.
Yeah.
Visionaries that will blow people's minds, right? Because
Yes.
they just had that extra mentor, that extra aha, and someone to
Mhm.
help them, right? And then bring
Mhm.
something extraordinary to the world, right?
Yes.
And that's what's so exciting. It's so exciting. I have a question for you here. As someone that's gone after their dream, what's happened on the journey that surprised you?
Um, you know, I don't want to bring it to a negative, but there have been, like I say, there have been haters, right? I think there are a lot of, naysayers and haters throughout the journey, and not in an overt way. So I will say that. Thankfully, it's not been so negative, but I think there are people out there that, at the risk of being like jealous, on the outside, they probably want to go after their own dreams, want to
Sure.
take that risk or leap, but when they see other people succeeding, it ends up being like, almost like bitter, right? And so
Yes.
those
Yes.
are the kick those to the curb, right? Kick the haters to the curb because you don't
Yes.
want that negative. You don't want the people who may on the outside want to help you, but they're really disingenuous. So that's been the biggest thing that surprised me. It's like, wow, I thought I had friends that were really
Yeah.
supportive. And then it turns out, like, actually, no, they weren't really friends or they weren't really trying to be genuinely supportive.
Okay, that's like such a big screen front seat moment right there that you shared that. That's so authentic. I agree. It's so interesting. You will find out who your friends are very, very
Absolutely.
quickly, and it's been very surprising that some of the closest people were actually, sometimes the most unkind. Most unkind. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my god, I have strangers that are bigger fans, like, what's happening here?" You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
truth, and I know there are women entrepreneurs in the IT world and beyond that are listening to this right now, and they're having an aha. They're having an aha, and now we want them to know you're not alone. You're not alone, but don't stop going after your dream. Don't stop,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Go after it. You're gonna make a huge impact. I love this,
Yeah.
tip of yours, "Know your future self. It is the key to thriving." Please elaborate on that because I think that's so that's really a trailblazer, though, a visionary that's like, "Know your future self." Yes.
Yeah, it's so, this was an exercise I actually did back in 2020. And it was with my executive MBA program at Michigan. And I ironically found the letter that I wrote back then
Oh, wow.
to myself in 5 years. And it's like literally, it just like made me think because I picked up this other book called Be Your Future Self Now just the other week. And that combined with the fact that I wrote myself a letter of like who I want to be and where I want to be just keeps you accountable. But what I think is really important is obviously the key to thriving is knowing where you want to be, knowing where you want your future self to be, because it keeps you focused and it makes you like really intentional. It makes you purposeful in where you spend your time, who you hang out with,
Yes.
what things you commit to. So, it's easier said than done, right? Because you don't know necessarily like who are my true friends, or does this venture make sense for what I'm going to do today versus like in 10 years? But if you know where you want your future self to be, it will give you the answers to like, do I want to spend 5 hours with these people, or do I want to do it building my business, or do I want to spend the next couple of years building this startup, or do I want to go be a employee at this company? These are the questions that I'm sure a lot of us face and deal with day to day. But if you know your true self, it'll be that much more clear, and I think it just helps accelerate your success.
Were you surprised by what you rediscovered in this letter? I'm just curious. That came
I
true
love
too?
it. Yeah, it came true. Honestly, I'm like, oh my God, I got chills when I saw it. But when I look at it, it was like never stop learning, expand your network, create consistent habits to be healthy, live the life of my dreams. And like literally I had like sub bullets of like specific things I wanted to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm living it. I didn't know that I was putting myself in this direction, but I was like, whoa, like check, check. And like, still working on that one. But like getting it even down on paper back in 2020 was like cool to do it. I remember dreading it because it was an assignment for my executive MBA program. So because there was an assignment, you had to submit it, but it forced me to like really reflect, and getting it down on paper. And then obviously now even like looking at it, I'm like, holy crap, like I'm so glad I did that.
I want to encourage everyone out there that's tuning in, right, to do the same.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
write a letter to your future self and then seal
Mm-hmm.
it, right, and put it somewhere, and then what in a year, 2 years, 3 years, take it out, right?
Yeah.
Because that was also your future self, like, saying bravo to you.
Yeah.
Like,
I
giving
know
you
it is.
because I believe our future selves are mentoring us. I do. That we have a projection in front of us. It's just we're human, and we're sitting in our
Mhm.
humanness all day, right? But we have a cheering crowd out there that is, like, cheering for us and, like, nudging us along the way. And sometimes, I've kept driving. I was just like, I just that I was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna ignore that nudge." And then sometimes they nudge so hard, they, like, push you off a cliff. They're like, "We've been trying to say this. Your future self knows this, so do it."
Yes, yes. Yeah, I definitely encourage it. I mean, it took a couple of hours of reflection, but I'm so glad I did it because it keeps you honest with yourself. And then,
Yes.
yeah, when
I'm
you
gonna
take it
do
out
this
a couple of years
today.
later.
I'm doing this later
Yeah,
today. I'm doing this, and I'm
yeah,
gonna steal it, and I'm gonna put it somewhere. And then one day I'm gonna open up the lake, and they're gonna be cheering, and my future self's like, "Yay." I wanna share this
oh,
bonus tip here. As a woman in your arena, build an expansive network. Building expands, which
yeah.
means you gotta get visible, which means you gotta sometimes
Mhm.
write it down and just know that sometimes people aren't gonna be cheering for you but that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that they won't cheer for you at some point along the way,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
What's a piece of advice that you would give, IT women entrepreneurs out there, to take their biz next level, sister?
I would say have patience for
Oh,
sure. I think I'm very impatient. A lot of my friends and colleagues know this, but to be truly successful, Rome was not built in a day. Have patience, know that it's going to take time. Know that there are going to be obstacles that are going to come in your way, and it's going to be demoralizing. It might kick you to the curb for a couple days, but you know, be patient, be good to yourself, and know that as long as you're working hard and striving and doing all the things necessary, you will achieve that next level of success.
I love that piece of advice. I agree, and I also so appreciate your authenticity around that. Some days it's just gonna be tough. It's just gonna be hard, right? And, again, an aha that I didn't get till I left Hollywood was that failure is actually succeeding, right? And I remember
Mhm.
I heard I was watching a famous keynote speaker, and they said this, I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
that's not true." because I was used to this kind of society, which is no, you do not fail, you go, right? And so,
Mhm.
but that piece of advice and just no, and so when I do sit in a major failure, right? Now instead of beating myself up, I let myself sit in it for a minute and then do it again, right?
Mhm.
Get up and keep going, you know? So I love, love, love your advice. I love Tech Girl. Love what you're doing out there, Lynn. You're such a powerful, empowering leader, woman, and mentor. So thank you for all that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate
Thank you.
you being out there. And thank you for coming on the show today, Lynn. I know you're so busy. It's just such an honor to have you here today. And I know the
Likewise.
audience is there's so many gems and diamonds from Lynn that you all can just run with. Just run with it.
Oh,
Thank you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I appreciate you, sister.
thank you so much. I'm so honored to be on with you. Thank you.
I'm gonna drop you down in the green room. You could go grab a mocktail. Isn't she cool? She's super cool what she's doing, you guys. Learn more about Lynn. I'm going to have it in the shout outs too. It's also here in the scroll. You want to get to know this influencer. What she's doing out there is incredible for women in the IT world, but it crosses over in general, right? Because we're all just dominoes and we're impacting each other. And she's definitely a trailblazer out there. I want to just quickly talk about my first book, The Red Carpet Guide to Visibility and Influence. You can grab this on Amazon. I talk about my Hollywood journey in here and also have a step-by-step guide of how you can get more visibility and influence out there in the marketplace. You know why? Because it's your birthright. Literally your birthright to get more visibility, influence out there. And I always end it like this. It is your birthright as a woman entrepreneur to get more visible and influence out there in the marketplace. So stand in your spotlight and shine bright. Join me for another episode next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Coast time. And until then, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I appreciate you guys. Bye. Thank you for joining me today. You can learn more about me, my products, and services at joeyg113.com. Make sure to join me for another episode every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Coast time on my globally recognized show, SWE Spotlight with Joie.